Ready.
Okay, so this is the Mir office hours from 2024, July the 25th. We have no actions from the previous meeting, so the first thing we'll move on to is that we're preparing to roll Mir 2.18, which has a number of factors that we consider interesting to this audience. We're in the process of working on fractional scaling. We've landed decorations, support for keyboard LEDs. We've got the Viewporter protocol. Internally, we've got a test harness for window management, but we're probably not going to get that packaged in time for 2.18. We've resolved some problems resolving desktop files in confined snaps. We've done some work on the input configuration. That's still static part of the startup configuration, but we're going to work on some dynamic changes to input configuration coming forward. And there were a number of bugs in the Mir Wayland graphics platform that we discovered and fixed. So that's what's coming with that.
Should we talk more about any of those topics, Neil? Questions? Anybody else questions about what any of those mean? Or are we all clear on that?
So with Mir 2.18, for particularly the decoration stuff, what extent of that is in Mir and what extent do compositors need to implement?
So the decoration support is for the XDG decorations protocol. So Mir is simply using the same decorations it's always had for X applications, for server-side decorations. And the compositor can choose between a range of strategies, like it can always return SSD, it can always return CSD, or it can accept the client suggestion and otherwise return either CSD or SSD.
So we don't yet have any kind of customization points there, right? So it's going to draw what it's going to draw, right?
Yeah, that was basically what I was asking. Is like, is there a customization entry point for compositors yet, or not?
Not just yet. We have to come up with the right means to the right ways to go about it, right? To get
totally fine. I just wanted to have clarification on that, since.
But I think like it's already a good situation, because I know SDL suddenly are actually windows that you can close.
Yes.
Which is always a good thing, right?
Yeah. And there's other frameworks and applications where they've not implemented any way to do CSDs and effectively require SSDs to exist in some way. So it's good to have the functionality in place. The other thing is, well, okay, I guess the Mir Wayland platform is, I guess, referring to the to running it on top of an existing Wayland compositor rather than having to run it on X11. So that's is that functional now, or should I still expect crashes when I try to do it?
You shouldn't have expected crashes at all. So
it's been crashing for me since Mir 2.14. And
you're telling us how to reproduce these crashes.
I just run Mir all app on Quinn and it fails.
Good, file an issue. We need to know.
Well, I brought it up in the Matrix discussion the last time I did it with 2.17, because like I was trying to figure out how to be able to test some features and function of applications running inside of Mir. And then Matthew's the one who told me that I shouldn't bother because it doesn't work.
At the time, it did not work.
No. So we have to we have to look into it. So I've noted down that we have running on Mir on Kevin crashes. I've also actually backtracking a little bit. Neil, if you know and can point us at prior art for what do compositors do to customize server-side decoration, if we could just look at it and see, what's there, so that we can maybe make it, easier for people to integrate with.
Sure. I think I have notes from the last time we talked about this, but I can bring those. I can find those again and send them to you. Do you have a particular way you want me to send it to you?
Discourse is going to be fine under the event.
Okay, I'll do that.
Perfect, thank you. If it's not there already, because I know that we talked about this before, and if it's there already, then we can just dig it out. But if there's anything else that you want to add, then we'd love to hear that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any more before we move on? Okay, so our development base has now moved to Ubuntu 24.04, and along with that, most of our snaps are migrating to Core 24 base. So that's just for information, really. We've introduced a growth of our graphics content interface for snaps called GPU 2404. I think Savic's probably the best place to expand on that.
Yeah, so, but even before Core 24, I think one of the important bits here are we have a new toolchain, and we will be using the features from that new toolchain. So it's expected that if you build on an older toolchain, then you may end up with issues, right? Because we won't be straying from, we want to use part of the reason why we were moving to a newer Ubuntu base is to get features from the new toolchains. But on the new GPU stuff, it's a revision of the graphics Core 22 interface. We've renamed it GPU 2404 just to kind of disconnect ourselves first from the fact that it's only about graphics, because it's not. It's also about OpenCL, CUDA, and stuff. And 2404 because it also applies, at least on the classic side, it also applies to Ubuntu 2404 for the snaps that are run on Ubuntu Core. On Ubuntu Classic rather than just Ubuntu Core. So that's kind of the story. Important bits here: the GNOME extension already is using that. So all of the apps that are built with the GNOME extension will be using the central Mesa that you can control from as on kind of a system-wide basis. So that means that you can actually get a newer Mesa, or applicable changes that on Ubuntu Asahi or on the Apple Silicon Macs. There is a track of Mesa 2404 for Asahi, which means that all of the snaps that hook up to it will by default get the graphics support for that platform, right? And it's even going to be more important as we can see the proliferation, or I imagine we'll see a proliferation of our Macs, our notebooks, Qualcomm's coming up with, and Lenovo are coming up with those, and there will be more and more of those, I imagine, in the lifetime of 2404. But I don't expect Mesa to support those GPUs anytime soon. So we need that mechanism to just have a way to support those on snaps. So that's in place. That's working. We know of a bug. So particularly on AMD, Snapd is not hooking up the right pieces into the right places, and in the snaps, there's layouts and content interfaces involved. So that has to be fixed. It is in progress of being fixed. So that's going to be a transparent fix for everyone. It's just a bug in Snapd in the ordering of mounts, effectively.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, I guess we're kind of related to the GPU stuff. As you were talking, it came to my mind. How are we on multi-GPU handling for Mirror? Because most of the compositors I've experienced with, they don't handle multiple GPUs very well. Aside from Quinn, they don't even handle GPU resets and switching and stuff like that pretty much at all.
So we do have support for hybrid since like a year and a bit ago, I suppose, more or less, maybe less than that. So we do test on those. I'm not going to tell you that it's that is perfectly working and there's bugs, but we do expect it to work, right? So we're testing on 3 configurations basically in the lab. It's Intel, well, more than that, but any single GPU, and then in terms of hybrid, Intel plus AMD and NVIDIA plus Intel. We don't currently have AMD plus NVIDIA, it being very rare. It happens, but we don't currently have that that hooked up in the lab. We are testing that we get output on those, and the expected devices are there. Yeah, if anybody tries it out and finds issues, let us know.
While I don't own any of these, I do know that it has become very common for gaming laptops to have NVIDIA plus AMD now. So the integrated graphics is AMD, the dedicated graphics is NVIDIA. That's become a trend in the last, I don't know, 2 years. So it's fairly new, but it is something that is coming up as a combination. As far as people running Linux on it, well, again, it's only a new trend of the 2 years in PC space. I haven't heard too much about it in the Linux space yet, but I imagine that will start coming up more.
So like time. It's I think it's been a trend way longer than that. But it's just people on Linux have that's where all of the what Bumblebee, I think that came in 10 years ago almost, I think. I do remember.
Well, that was mostly Intel and NVIDIA though, because Intel doesn't sell very many CPUs without integrated graphics on it, whereas AMD only recently started selling all their CPUs with integrated graphics.
So you mean that the AMD plus NVIDIA side is recent? Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. So it shouldn't be any different from Intel plus NVIDIA, because both Intel and AMD are handled by the Mesa stack, by GBM. And that's actually the GBM on NVIDIA is something that is coming. That will kind of simplify this story, because suddenly you will be on a single stack, at least as far as the kernel API goes. But even before then, so right now running on NVIDIA and something else, which is usually going to be Intel or Mesa in general, that means we choose NVIDIA as the renderer, because it usually is the one that you want. Not always. So this is something that we will definitely go for in the long time, so that you can choose. You can today choose which renderer to use, but you have to do this statically on startup. We would like to have a means to, if you turn your laptop into low power mode, to shift everything onto the integrated graphics. So that you use less power, and then if you go to performance, flip it off and flip it around again. That is all possible as far as the compositor goes, and but as far as the client goes, then there isn't currently even a way for us to say, hey client, give that GPU away, right? There's nothing like that. So that's something maybe we will have to come up with going later. We can kill the clients and have them restart on the GPU that we wanted to use, but there's no way to dynamically move between those as far as the client are concerned today.
Why not? Because I say this acting kind of dumb here on purpose, because one of the things that I saw, I forget how long ago, but there was a program that I found that what it could do is you could basically underneath the Wayland client, you could move it to a different Wayland socket and then have it use those to talk to graphics and whatever. And I would guess that in theory, you could do the same thing of hold the connection, disconnect it, and then reconnect it to a new GPU.
But the client has to be able to deal with that, right? There's so much state on the Wayland socket that you would have to recreate on the new socket. So it's basically it has to happen within the application. The client has to have support for that one way or another, where we signal it.
That's the Wayland protocol.
Yeah. So we have to signal. We have to signal the client. Please get off that GPU. This is the preferred GPU now. Yes, ultimately we could just kill the connection, and if you restart, then you restart. If you don't, then you're a crappy app.
Yes.
But like I just mean that today there is no established pattern to that, right? That's really
Sure. Yeah, I would like for us to have I would like us to have a way like what is in macOS, where like applications get transparently moved based on whether they're demanding a certain amount of graphical compute resource. Like if they're pushing heavy OpenGL, then they get automatically switched. If they're not pushing a lot, they get switched back. If they're, or if the application requests it in particular, of course, it'll get switched and so on. Those kinds of things.
So yeah, all of that's great, but it does require the clients to play
Yes,
along.
I know.
So macOS has the advantage, like what you're describing is great, but it won't happen on GTK, right? It won't happen on, like, it will happen on all of the macOS or Apple frameworks because they've explicitly coded for that, right?
Yeah.
And we will. I'm sure we will get there in time, and with like new toolkits, or at least updated toolkits for that. But there's just time.
But we could at least be able to say launch it with this GPU, right?
Yeah, so that we can do. Like the new client only gets the GPU that we want to. Well, it can get both, or we can just give it only one, right? Or whichever one we want. But ultimately, as when they are running, there's currently no way for us to do much about it from as far as the clients are concerned.
Yeah. So basically, some kind of DRM XDG, DRM GPU switch protocol or something.
And it's like, I expect this, like, it's unlikely to be trivial on toolkits that just don't have that kind of functionality built in, because they will have to rebuild and re-render on the new GPU.
They have to change the way that they do everything.
Yeah. So it's like, it is still like, it's something that we should start for and get going.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and if it doesn't if the functionality doesn't start existing, then there's no compelling reason for toolkits to ever handle it, right? Like, it's a catch-22.
Agreed.
So
we need to drag one toolkit along with us, and the rest can then consider whether they're going to follow.
I can probably help get Qt on board. That's probably because it's a very desirable feature, and the KDE folks actually control the Qt Wayland platform module. They are the ones that mostly develop it. So since the way Qt is architected, all that stuff kind of passes through a platform module that essentially handles all this stuff. Re-engineering that part to be able to handle this is probably ugly, but doable.
Right.
So
okay, it's something for the future, but we will bear that in mind. Yes.
Yes.
Any more on 2404? Anyone?
I can just say that I will work with the KDE folk to also do this stuff for the KDE framework. So basically, whenever they start moving to base code 24, that's when we will also add that functionality in for using that graphics user space.
I believe they're going to be starting on that pretty soon.
Yeah, I've already spoke to them before. I've already reviewed what's there in the framework snaps, and I just need to get to preparing those patches for them.
Okay.
Okay. So moving on. 2.17 had some features which basically allowed integration of the lock screen and the session lock. That's now been integrated in Miriway in its stable release. Nothing really exciting about it, except to note it happened.
Well, so Miriway has a stable release, because there are no release tags on Miriway at all.
Sorry, when I say stable, I mean the snap.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I should get round to putting some release tags on there.
It's a rolling release thing. So like the commit is the tag.
Well, so it would be nice if there were at least releases around the time that you break everything when it moves to a new mirror release, because it is otherwise kind of difficult for me to figure out what I'm supposed to pair them with.
Yeah.
I've already had to talk to Matthew about this once. Because he did the same thing with Miracle, and it didn't tell me that I needed to do a mirror upgrade when he made a new Miracle release.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to bum rush a mirror upgrade so that Miracle would build.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Tags are good.
Yeah.
Tags are good.
And also like dependencies, right?
Yeah.
So so maybe Neil, you might know, is there something generic that could tell like that if I know like we could encode dependencies in Debian control, we could encode dependencies in RPM. I forget what the control files are, but is there
Spec
anything?
files.
Is there anything generic like that could span both? Like there is this project that can spit out both debs and RPMs from this one same metadata, right? So maybe just having that and signify.
So like I maintain one such project that lets you use RPM spec files to also build Debian packages.
Right.
So that's one way. I mean, the main thing I just tend to ask people is that, if you in your CMake or AutoFoo or whatever the hell you use, just make sure you describe your dependencies in a way that requests via common virtual names like package config or CMake modules or whatever.
On that, we could actually have like CMake checks on the version of Miriway.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah,
things like that. So the build will just break early and tell you that this is
rather than it failing to compile halfway
Right.
through after spending a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly I can stick a version dependency on the mirror dependency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just be helpful if I knew what I needed to make it work, because it's already hard enough as it is when I don't know that.
Okay, understood.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, like I've started fiddling around with Miriway a little bit. I have some notes that I need to, clean up and put together about things that either A, I need more information from you, Alan, or B, things that I found that didn't quite work the way that I expected. And hopefully we can use that to make it better.
Okay. Well, maybe we should do a session on that together for the summit.
Sure, maybe, I guess. Yeah, that would be fun. I don't know if I'm... I don't know.
Neil, there are people doing remote sessions.
Okay. Yeah,
so
it's purely a matter of that I've been traveling basically all the bloody time, and I can't keep my body will fall apart if I keep doing this.
Yeah.
See you in 2 weeks, Neil.
Oh yeah, that's right. We will be seeing each other in person in 2 weeks. He's got a presentation at Flock.
Yeah, on Wednesday.
Here in Miracle.
Yeah. Speaking of traveling.
Okay. So moving on. There was a very low attendance at the Pacific Time Zone office hours. Basically, it was 2 of us. So we're wondering whether that is something we should continue to pursue, or what we could do to make it better.
So I think part of the problem is that there just aren't that many users of a mirror-based thing to make this work. Like, why I'm here is because I've been talking to you guys for years, and you've decided to set this up, so I'm here. And Simon Quigley was here in previous ones because, well, Lubuntu needs something, and so that's kind of the road that he's going down right now. But in general, there isn't a larger community around Mir as a compositor. I'm hoping that with Miracle, we will start having more people become interested in this kind of thing. And I know I saw there was a pull request about revising the documentation for Mir to make it easier to understand how to build stuff using it. And that should also, like, one of the things that we probably want to start doing after we've got Miracle out and we have this like flagship that shows off that Mir can do cool things, is start directly advocating for people to like build their own toy compositors or whatever with it, in the same vein that people do with WL roots and other things now, because like that is, as that starts building up, then it starts becoming more necessary for like being able to accommodate these different time zones. So far, like aside from me, I don't really know of anyone who would really benefit from the Pacific hours one. And the Pacific hour one just means it's later in the afternoon for me in Eastern time, right? Like, and it means that none of you are going to be there because it's super late for all of you. So like, there is no benefit to it unless there are more people that are, you know, interested in this sort of thing. I'm not saying no, you should never do it, but I'm saying that right now you don't have the presence to make it matter.
Right, but even for you, right? Like if it was Matt, you, and Chris, I think part of the reason for us to do it is so that Chris is also involved when he can.
Yes.
And we can also have different conversations with Chris because he's on, like, if you asked him about the hybrid support and all of that stuff, he could give you a much deeper answer than
right,
I
because he's in a time zone for that. Yeah.
Right. So basically, that like if there is a time zone, if there is a time that works for you when you three are online with Chris and Matt, then I think it's still worthwhile just moving to that, right? And
I mean, for what it's worth, the meeting time you had set was probably going to be fine, except for the fact that I was in Germany at the time, which meant that it wasn't going to work.
right.
Normally, I am not in Germany, although it's sure starting to feel like I'm there a lot. Normally, I'm not in Germany, and so it is usually that would have worked out, but it was just bad timing.
Okay, so I think what we have to do is just coordinate with you because obviously you're the most present community member on these. So we just have to coordinate with you because like the day earlier or even a week one way or another probably doesn't matter too much to us, but it may mean for you to be there.
Like if that meeting was in July rather than June, then I would have shown up to it because I'm here. And like it was just bad timing. Like I was at the OpenSUSE conference and like the time that it was there was like, I'm going to sleep now.
Of course.
Okay. So any other business? Anything you've bought that you feel urgently to talk to us about?
So apparently there is now an XDG desktop. There's an XDG decorations v2 protocol being discussed now. And I don't know. I feel very drained just looking at it at that. But it seems to be the reason for its existence is there is a need to handle the states of an application doesn't support CSDs, and also a compositor wants to force SSDs, and neither of those are actually in the V1 protocol per se. And so the protocol is being, quote unquote, proposed to be reworked to handle this. No commitments or anything, but I would ask you very gently if you would go look and just make sure that it's not completely crackpot. Because knowing that now, while the comment discussion is like 5 rather than when it's 500, is probably a better time.
Yeah.
Noted, thanks.
Yep. I think there was one other thing. The other thing that I would like y'all to look into is the XDG session management stuff. It looks like people are starting to implement it. And so it's starting to hit the final runway of becoming an accepted protocol so that everybody can rely on it. And they're looking for people to hack it and stuff like that. CXG session management. It's freaking old protocol discussion.
Merge request number 18. So
Yeah. It is at the point now where acts are being solicited, client and compositor implementations are being made. So it would be great if y'all could look at it and just make sure it's either okay or not or whatever. Let me see, is there anything else that I need to bring up with you? I'm checking my notes and stuff. Do we have fractional scale supported in the mirror compositor?
it's happening right now.
Okay. And then I think that's. I don't think I have anything else that I need to bring up right now. Oh, yes, I do have one more thing. It is 2 protocols that I would really like y'all to review / act whatever it is, and that is commit timing and FIFO.
I was aware of commit timing. What's FIFO about?
These are for the SDL people and the gaming people who need a way to track time synchronization for advanced presentation modes. This was originally one protocol called presentation timing or something like that.
Yeah.
And it got broken apart into 2 protocols because of a longer discussion that I don't really want to read. But the end result is that there's these 2 protocols, and it's basically a blocker for SDL 3.0. And so it would be super nice if you could take a look at it and help in the way that you can get it over the finish line.
So is there a relation to explicit sync? Because that's another one.
Explicit sync. Oh yes, explicit sync is the one that NVIDIA basically is demanding now for their driver to work properly. They're removing their pseudo implicit sync stuff, I think, in either the 560 or the driver after it. But explicit sync is supposed to make it so that I think it's internal timing rather than external timing. So it's the timing between the driver and the compositor rather than the timing between the client and the compositor.
Mm-hmm.
So commit timing and FIFO are for client and compositor, whereas explicit sync, which is I think Linux DRM sync object, that one is for driver and compositor. I don't know why this wasn't all done in one protocol, but like, I don't know. I would just rather everything be taken care of with less of this stuff. But like, apparently, I don't have the dictator wand. But yeah, those 2, I put links into the Google chat. I don't know if were you able to pick those up? Yeah. So I think that's pretty much it from me, because I think you guys have done a decent job taking care of pretty much everything else that has kind of come up as important or urgent so far. And then I'll get back to you about the decoration stuff, and I'll put it in a post after you post the notes for this one and make sure that that's all that's in place. And then Matthew, you and I need to speak within the next week before Flock to finish actually putting together what the heck the Miracle Spin is going to look like and what software we want to preload. Right. Because like, I don't know what you want to put on it.
Neither do I.
All right, so we're gonna have to sit down and just like bang that out.
Because
ideally, we should have that when you're there at Flock.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that this week.
All right.
Ping me whatever works for you, and we can work it out.
All righty. Make sure you're paying attention when I ping you.
At me.
All right,
I just give you my phone number.
I won't say no to that, even though that's not normally necessary.
Yeah, I'll look.
We'll figure it out. But yeah. Otherwise, I think that's everything from me. When is Mirror 218 coming out?
We've
Well-
got a couple of things in flight, and we've got a couple of bugs that we need to track down. But
Okay.
we've got the features that we want in it, so it's just waiting on those final things.
So like the knowing how it looked in the past, I would expect 4 weeks.
Okay.
Around that kind of time frame. Yeah. We'll probably start cutting the like BRCs next week or the week after that, and cherry pick whatever we need to cherry pick still after.
Okay. How about so Matthew? Question for you.
Mhm.
When will Miracle be ready for Mirror 218?
I mean, it could be ready right afterwards, right? We just have to update it. There's no upgrade required on my side code.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if it's just I can upgrade Mirror and then rebuild Miracle and everything should be good.
Yeah.
Assuming I have to do that, I might not even have to. I don't know what the final output will look like in
Okay.
terms of the Mirror API.
So you're only linking against Miral and Core at the moment. aren't you?
Mural core.
In that case, it should be ABI compatible.
Oh, and
Actually, I should just go
there's
look.
server internal.
Ah,
I can just
the
check.
server internal. No, that will
No, it'll have to be rebuilt. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because you link to Common Core and
Server internal.
no, you don't.
Oh, I do as of 0.3, which I haven't updated yet.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll just do both at the same time, and then I don't have to
Sounds
suffer.
like a good time. I meant to do that, but then my gnome boxes kept crashing on me, so I got frustrated and
Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Well, I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay, that's all from our side. Then thank you, Neil, for joining. I will stop the recording for now.
Okay.
Cheers, everyone on the interwebs.